we have the next item is at 7 o'clock. It's a public hearing of an application by the W.E.B. Du Bois Legacy Committee for a statue.
No.
Open the public.
No, it's not by the Legacy Committee, it's by a private organization. Yeah, that's what it says in the app.
That's what the app, and that's what it says on the town website.
No, the app I read said it's a citizens initiative that will raise private funds for the creation and maintenance of the statue.
Right. That's what the application is.
Yeah.
It's an initiative, but the committee that's proposing it, is that nothing?
No.
Oh, okay. So there's the committee is not being represented
Correct.
here. And the library trustees have not approved this, and they're not being represented.
They have approved it.
Well, I had a statement that they hadn't, so I'm not sure the status of that. I
No,
hadn't.
it's right in the
No,
application. Doc.
it says, yeah, that they have.
No, I haven't from them that they were not, they were upset that I had said that they were supporting this. Okay, you gotta,
Let's look at the application.
well, can we do one thing?
It's in the application.
Let's just open up the public hearing
Yeah,
first.
yes,
but I wanted
yes,
that
thank you.
corrected, yeah.
Okay, no, it's fine, but if I have public information, that's who I'm assuming is doing it from what I could obtain from the website, but, okay, let's get it all straightened out. Okay, motion to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, have an application, let me read it. Describes the description of the application is a life-size bronze statue of W.E. Du Bois in front of Mason Library, a private citizen initiative that will raise funds for the creation and maintenance of the statue and will be gifted to the town. The trustees of the library voted unanimously in favor of the statue. That was the application, and I assumed it was coming from the W.E. Du Bois Legacy Committee, so I was incorrect about that. The library's trustees were upset that they were not noted on, here, and they were not supportive of it, but I don't see anybody here from the library trustees either saying yes or no to it.
Could I add something?
Sure, go ahead.
Perhaps, I was at the meeting when the trustees voted.
Sure.
They voted in favor of the concept, but it was a sort of a non-binding vote, and they didn't see anything. This was several months ago. It was at a conceptual stage.
Yeah. Eileen, I can only say that when I received emails from
Not disagreeing with
the
you.
librarian
Maybe
addressed,
I-
it was signed by the librarian and the chairman, that they were not part of this either. So nobody has permission to do this. The town signed it, but they're not supporting it at this point. The library, the trustees have signed it. So we're looking at an informal item, a proposal that we don't know what it is, the final thing of it. Am I right in that, or we can open up to you, Mr. Klein, to
Should we
discuss.
step
Sure.
forward or
Sure,
speak
come
from
in,
here?
yeah. Sure, come forward, yes.
My name's Stanley Klein, and this is my wife, Fraker Fausti. We are the private citizens who are interested in finding a site for a statue of Du Bois and for finding an artist, a sculptor, to render it, and for raising private funds to have it made and to maintain it once it's up. I guess I was under the impression at that library meeting that they gave us full support. I guess we had different impressions of that.
all I can tell you is that I've heard that through, that they were, what I implied here was they were fully supporting it, and they said, that was, I got word was no, strongly to that
Oh,
effect.
that's news to us,
Okay.
because we made a
Yeah,
presentation.
and I also assumed that because you were all members of the Du Bois
My
committee.
wife is.
Only I am.
Oh, okay, I assumed it was coming through
No,
through the.
and it's not part of the directives to the W.E.B. Du Bois Legacy Committee and would therefore be not appropriate. This idea for a statue came about quite a while ago. We just discussed it informally, people informally on Facebook when Danny put it up said, yeah, that is a very nice idea. Then we started to look into, well, what are the actual avenues that we have to follow to make this happen. It pretty soon became clear to us that in order for us to raise what would be significant money, I don't know yet how much that will depend.
It seems around $80,000 to $100,000.
Yeah. So that's significant money for which we would obviously also go outside of the Great Barrington community to people all over America who are interested in supporting this initiative. That it is important for us, in order to start this fundraising campaign, to be able to tell people where's this statue going to be. Obviously, it's a little hard to raise money for a statue and people ask, well, where? And we say, well, we don't actually know. It could end up in the middle of the Housatonic River. I mean, so when we looked at possible sites for it, obviously the library, and in front of the library, seemed to us the most appropriate, with the Bois, our most famous native son, who's here on the wall, and his family being the preeminent scholar of the 20th century, one of the preeminent scholars.
And a prolific writer.
And a prolific writer. And so with that in mind, we approached, did a presentation to the trustees of the library and basically asked at that point, and we will, we'll have to get some clarity on that, would you in principle be okay with having a statue of the Bois in front of the library? And they said yes to that, and we showed them this, which was a rendition that Donna Drew had done, and as you can see, the Bois is sitting here on a chair, and then actually the proposal, the suggestion was made from the trustees who said, wouldn't it be nicer if he's on a bench? And we said, yes, absolutely, because then you could actually sit next to him, take out a book of the Bois from the library, sit next to the statue, have a conversation with Mr. Bronze over here. So after that, then, and my apologies for not knowing the intricacies of town government. I was not aware that there was a historic district committee, and so we were told,
So that was the next step.
because we thought, well, we'll go to the select board and say we would like, you know, would you receive this, what is now only in our minds, a statue?
Could I just interject
Yeah.
something here? Again, I think what we would like from you is something provisional.
Yes.
Because I can't imagine that you'd be able to sign off on something that you haven't seen yet. But, you know, if you're,
No, I mean, we'll discuss that.
okay,
Okay.
well, I didn't presume. But, you know, at some point, if you give us the go-ahead, we would, of course, would show you the drawings that we've gotten from prospective sculptors and more exact placement on the site of what we have in mind. So,
Okay. Just to clarify this, because it's gotten so confusing, the
Okay.
we are you two?
Yeah,
Okay.
at this point,
Okay.
it's only
Okay,
us.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The we.
The we.
Who is the
Yes.
we, honey?
yeah, we're kind of the committee. We also.
No,
live
you're not a
together.
committee, are you?
But no, we're not.
No, you're two individuals. I mean, there's nothing, I should have said this, it was just, you were the only ones. It has nothing to do with any committee.
Correct.
She happens to be a member of the Du Bois Committee.
That
As
was my
Julie is a
assumption, that was
member
my
of the-
stretch,
Yeah.
okay? But I just wanna,
Mhm.
I have to get who the entities are, am I correct?
Yes.
All right,
Right
that's why,
now, it's us, although we are in communication with a lot of people who
no,
also support it.
I just wanna make sure who's doing
Yeah.
what,
Okay.
that's all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Because I got challenged tonight and other nights too, okay, about filling it out wrong, and it was my mistake. So,
So,
Do you have any questions for us?
yeah, so we were told that before we could present what is still an idea, an imaginary statue of the boys on a bench in front of the library, to the select board, your committee should say, well, I suppose in principle that is okay, it fits within our historic districts.
Good.
So-
Let's have them ask questions, I think, at this point, okay?
Okay, hon. All right. Yeah. I think I made all my point.
okay,
Could I say something?
in a minute, okay, let me just, I just going to give, some of my input, okay? Which as chairman and as an architect, I did things, and one thing is this is a little bit bigger for us. The copy there is
Yeah.
very bad. I noticed, and I also went online, because I had a different impression of the statue, there's a lot of copies of that, of an individual on a bench, okay, and that's what I'm assuming you're describing more, a bench, not a chair.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
that's just a seated figure on a chair. This is a seated reclining figure on a bench.
Correct.
That's
more what we have.
Yes.
that's what I assumed, and that's what I saw, and I said, that's what I could imagine.
Yeah.
And then also I saw this is in Central Park,
It is big.
this is a statue there on a granite base.
Yes.
That's
The
lovely.
seat.
Who is that?
I had to ask me.
It doesn't
I
matter.
think it might be
I wrote,
Anderson.
yes, Hans Christian Andersen,
Oh.
thank you, Pat. I knew you had to ask me that, and I knew it was some author, and I couldn't remember now.
Oh, hence.
I saw these two, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Very
what,
much the spirit of what we have in mind.
okay, which I'm going to say first, a couple of quick thoughts on it, okay? These are statues, and most statues have some, the area around them becomes part of the statute. Backdrop, a focus, and there's some relationship there. Where I see you putting it, I don't see a background there. And we probably would never have a background there because the building itself, the library building, is wide open and needs to be. It would be hard to do a background, you know, to make something behind this, because it would start interfering with the architecture of the library. If you did something, you know, if it got bigger, if you did do trees, bushes, something bigger around it, just in that location. And I, the other thought, my quick thought,
Yeah,
in looking
sure.
at it, was you're putting it, the symmetry of the building that you're doing, the statue is going there, and what balances the statue is the book return. And they're just, it's sort of a strange comparison, I think, you know, strange look. So myself, I think it's a weak spot for it. That's why I would describe it as my architectural background. I envision it being on the sidewalk, the bench on the sidewalk as being more appropriate, which would be on, you know, on public land, not on the library land. I mean, that's kind of where I would, when I saw it happening, that's what I envisioned. I've seen, I can't remember where I've seen them now. I think it's in Boston. I've seen a couple of times of these happening somewhere, a couple of parks somewhere. So I'm just giving you my reaction as part of this discussion. Part of my, and for our work too, would be, there's not a strong, is there a strong historical connection that Du Bois had with the library?
I think
I
you're.
would
Well,
think-
no, wait, no, I mean, but historic facts, I'm just saying, you know, that's my question. From what I know, he could have had having been a member of the First Congregational Church, that he had a stronger connection with them maybe than the library. And why isn't he there in front of the church where they supported him, they sent him money to go to Harvard and stuff like that? So I'm throwing out discussions, that's just my quick thoughts in it.
May I just respond to one of the things you said? We did talk to, there was a pastor at the, who was known as Pastor Randy, who was a pro tem minister there while they're searching for a new one. And he wasn't in a position, because he was a temporary figure,
Sure.
to do it. We did do a presentation also with some others with us. Ms. Van Sant was with us, and we didn't get a full support from those present. It would seem like a very appropriate place, because it was the church he went to, and which supplied his tuition both for Fisk and for Harvard.
Right. Yeah, and I'm using that as my question on the connection to the library. I'm comparing those in my mind, okay, because.
They don't seem to be in a position now to make these kind of long-term decisions, because they don't have a permanent pastor.
Yeah, they do now, but that's.
They do?
They do, but that's coming
Fairly
shortly,
recently.
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's an option.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I guess Mason Library was dedicated in 1913, so W.E.B. Du Bois was not in high school at that time. It was already beyond that. And I would argue that his entire life was built on reading and books. And that starting from when Frank Hosmer, who was the principal of Great Barrington High School at the time, tried to help him because he recognized that he was an intellectual of
No.
note, yes, even as a young man, young kid. And going on to Johnny Morgan, who was the owner of the Ostensible bookstore in Great Barrington, who allowed him to come in and read copies of the magazines before they got put out for sale. He allowed him to purchase a 5-volume set on time. He made a special time payment system so that Du Bois could have the set and pay it off over time. You know, I think everything he did was predicated on books and learning through books, and had there been a library at the time, you know, yeah, we could have a different discussion, but I think it's certainly appropriate that a public building that belongs to the town of Great Barrington might offer the space to honor a public figure of world renown.
I agree.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with that, but there is no, my comment is, I'm not seeing a direct historical connection to him, to the library.
Yes, because
No,
the library is
there I'm being very specific for a reason, Julie. I'm not disagreeing with your statement, but if it's not, there's different ways that we would make a motion to approve that in my mind, okay? Because I don't see that you can say it's historically correct, that it was there. There's a monument and there's a bronze plaque to Laura Secord, whose family's house stood there. That was where her birth house was. So that is a physical connection.
Mm-hmm.
Du Bois, I'm sorry, give me one pronounce it, the French pronunciation. Julie knows I have a problem with that. And corrects me when I say it. There's another way to address that in my mind, and then it would be a hardship. That we would approve it by a hardship because it's not, because that's the point I'm making. There's not a strong historic context where he was part of that library or founded it, built it, laid the cornerstone. You know, it wasn't the reason that they built it because they knew he was going to be a great man, and he came. You know, I mean, there isn't that direct connection to my mind. Okay. Yes.
Well, to me, he is all about books, and the library is all about books, and I see a total connection between the two. I don't think he has to have gone to that library. The library represents books for everyone.
Did I say that he didn't?
I think you're arguing that the library is not a place for him to be.
No, you're judging me wrong.
No, it's just.
You are, you're
what
judging me wrong.
I'm
You're
wrong.
hitting
Should
me
we
on
get
what-
back to the application?
I might be wrong.
That's where, before we started down this trail, I wanted to get back to the application.
Okay.
I think a tribute to Du Bois is long overdue. I appreciate your initiative. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think the fact that the library trustees haven't acknowledged it and backed it completely
Although we
is
were
a
there and
concern.
thought they had, but that's.
No, but
another-
that's something
yeah.
that we would need. I think we'd also need some more information about the size and location. Because in the past, we had a representative from the library come in and talk about doing a bench type situation.
Yes,
So maybe it meshes with your idea as well,
yes, it does.
but I think it's a good one because it's a very prominent person from Great Barrington that we need a monument to, and whether it's at the library or the town hall or somewhere in between, but I like everything that you're doing. I just don't think that we can really act on this tonight because it doesn't have enough of the material that we need to act on it.
But
And I think you're kind of seeing where the board has different ideas of where things might go and just trying to provide some context for everything. But I
It's
just.
a little bit of a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah.
That's what it is a little bit.
Yeah.
We need a site before we can start raising money. It's a big process, the raising money. There was one thing that you said, sir, that interested me, the idea of on the sidewalk. I happen to like public art and sidewalk art, you know, it works in Florence, I
Right.
think it could work here. Would that be a viable idea?
See, if you move it out onto the sidewalk,
Or I guess that.
right next to the sidewalk, that's not the library's property, that's town property.
Mhm.
And so you could put that there without any,
I
of
think
our
that's
need
a-
to approve it. Because
we-
that, the property line of the library would be beyond the statute.
We would still need
You
your
need
approval.
you would need the select board and those
And you?
reviews.
And you as well.
No,
right?
because it's not, we are just dealing with there's a property line around the library, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what we can deal with. When it's not on that property, it would now go into that would be the town's purview totally, the DPW, I don't think planning board.
Not this commission.
And but not this commission, and the historical commission might be asked to, do an opinion on it. Because if you put up new electrical lines in town, the power companies have to go and ask permission from the historical commission, who has responsibility for anything to deal with the history of the whole town. The only thing we are dealing with there is the actual physical site of the library.
Okay. Well, that's a lot for us to think about. How should we proceed now, do you suggest?
Well, I guess I would ask if you would want, you've shown us a location where you would like to put the statue.
A proposed one.
A proposed,
We're
a
not,
proposed.
we're not married to it.
Well, I don't know what I'm more like, I think we all wanna see a statue,
Oh, good.
and I keep, to me, a statue is standing when I say it, so looking at a figure reclining on a bench is my better way of describing it, that it's not a statue, but,
I think the Pietà is a statue.
I do too, but I'm being, when I say that, I'm picturing something different. We can do any number of things that you'd like to do. You've come tonight with a location that you would like to see. It still would need a review by all the other people, and a final location, final drawings and things would probably come back for a review on this committee, if that's where you're putting it, after the library trustees approve it. I mean, there's a process that we can do that. If you're saying you're in flux about where you'd like to put it, and you wanna do some more, we can, hold another public hearing when you wanna do that, if it's gonna be
Well-
on the library property.
Yeah, I think we wanted to also talk about this, adjacent to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
What do
that-
you people think, just as people who do this kind of thing all the time, what do you think of that as a?
Well, I guess I'm gonna say that my comment was a little bit of it, the sidewalk is a place where you'd expect a bench to be. And it's the background or the provenance around it, okay? It gives it a reason to being there. And it works, review-wise, where one element here that without another one to balance it in front of a very traditional building, to me has a whole other aspect to it. Like where you're showing it, it's not a balance of tradition, there's not a lot, has to be some more reason around a bronze element there in my mind, and that's why
You're talking aesthetically.
aesthetic, yes.
I wanna just say two things about it. The sidewalk, could be an idea, but, I could also imagine that, the town and, the Department of Public Works would say, that's not a good idea because you're blocking the sidewalk.
We could ask the town planner what he thinks of that.
No, because it is, of course, a little bit more than a bench on which a person visiting the town or living in the town would sit. It is a statue on a bench, so that involves a little bit more of a space. So I'm a little bit weary of saying, well, that's fine because that might not at all be fine with the time. No, and
Sure.
then the other thing I would like to say is that in terms of the, and I'm certainly not an architect, I'm not an artist, I'm a journalist, so, you know, I'm as far removed from any aesthetics as can be. But as you made very nicely these copies of statues sitting on a bench, it doesn't necessarily involve a background, a bench and a person sitting on it. We could actually go out there, place a bench, and maybe we would do that on the side and take some pictures to see what would it look like in front of this beautiful building. Now, one of the things that we immediately thought of, and that's why we thought of a chair, which is now the idea of a bench, which is a much better idea, was that any statue that would be a full-sized statue erect, standing, would overpower the beautiful library facade, maybe too much. So, you know, it actually, but we can do some interesting photographs on it and design, and perhaps you can help with that, as to where it would be as in relation to the book return. Would it be much higher? Actually, I don't think quite not, because the ground slopes a little bit and all of that. But again, I am not anywhere but for us, the idea is we would, you know, obviously come back to you with a lot of this, with all of this, but it's very hard for us to move ahead and go to the select board and say, hey, town, would you like to, when this becomes a reality, would you like to receive the statue that we would give to you? You see, it's the chicken and the egg problem, so
Well,
I would like to break through that.
Can I just
Okay.
make a couple, number one, no, I couldn't help you with it. I couldn't do work for you
Okay.
to sit on the board. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
okay. And then I just want to clarify that
Sure.
to make sure. One thing I'd like to have you, if you do take a time to go look at the statues that are seated on benches, they create their own presence because you're walking by a bench next to a sidewalk where you'd expect where benches are placed. But as you go to it, it's all of a sudden a different one. It's bronze and there's a figure on it. All of a sudden it gives an emphasis to the statue in that element of a bench. So you're involving the bench, sidewalk, and the movement and the activities of people walking by expecting someone sitting there, but what they're getting is a statue and it's taking it into another context and bringing it up. That's what I don't see happening easily on the lawn going up that monumental entrance to the library, which when they did the renovations to the library, I was on the building committee, and I know how much we had to fight to keep that entrance there and to keep those monumental steps. They wanted to throw them away. And every time I go up and see people walking up into the library, I go, okay, I'm so glad that we saved that.
I just think a couple things. Again, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think there's people that can help you. I think Chris Rimbold certainly has an idea of where locations in town he'd be beneficial. Paul Ivory from the commission is certainly someone that would be able to help you. But I think the place to start really is with the library and the trustees there, and get their support, whether it's at up near the road or on the property somewhere. Just get the backing there and then kind of bring it all together. And I guess the last one would be the design advisory. They primarily do signage within town, but they're a bunch of architects. There's a couple members, I'm a member from the commission here, And our role at the design advisory is to provide guidance, free of
Mhm.
charge. You have architects who have a sense like Don does of massing and location and things like that. And I think if you pull all those things together, you probably have a nice package that you could move forward with. And I'd like to support it personally, and I think that the commission would too, if we just had the information we could act on.
Okay, I need to write down some of the things you said.
We can write it down for you.
Here, I'll write
Okay.
it down.
Yeah,
The names of the people who I
Sure.
should see and who these architects who are available to us
Design
are.
advisory,
I
sure.
see.
Yeah,
I-
sure.
No,
To Samara,
I-
the email.
I can send you an email with those on it.
Okay,
That-
and
that's
you have
easy.
my email.
Yeah, right, right.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks,
I-
I guess I'll see you again.
Jimmy was just asking the design judge.
So you have enough from us tonight, you need no further, you don't need any official action more from us tonight.
I don't
So go
know.
ahead,
So we will come back to you.
We'll come back,
Yes.
God
Right.
willing.
God willing, yes, yes, yes.
And have a wonderful holiday weekend.
And I still say as the chairman that we will approve it, but not in the historic context. There's other, it'd be something that's valuable and it'd be a hardship that would be approved under. That's one of our ways of approving things.
Okay. I've never been a hardship before.
Well, it would be.
And some people said I'm a hardship at times, but that's
Yeah.
okay. You know, I mean, I've been accused of it, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Bye-bye. Bye, Henry.
Make myself a note. Any other business?
To tie up the loose ends, how do we finish this off? We opened the public hearing, we had a,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we have to
he-
close the public hearing, right?
No, we closed it and there's no official action. It's being they basically withdrew the
Well, just
application. to
Just for
some-
the record, I just wanna make sure we,
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking it as, it was an informational meeting and they withdrew, technically it's in limbo, the application. It's not the same, it may come back the same, right? That's the way I would interpret it. Yes, sir.
Did you close it yet?
No, we
Yep.
didn't.
I would suggest then you just continue it until next time. Supposing they come back to you within a week or two with something changed, you wouldn't have to go out and re-advertise, so if that's something you might consider, just,
No, I would wanna re-advertise again because of all the problems this time
Yeah.
with the advertisement. That would be the only thing, Chris. I agree with you.
wouldn't wanna,
I would want a whole new, this is what it is
Yeah.
and these are the entities. Because I identified some wrong and other names were mentioned on there and they weren't part of it. At the suggestion, do we have to close the public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
I seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I would like to make a comment about the sidewalk, because wouldn't the first problem be that snow removal and people on bikes
It
bumping
wouldn't
into it?
be on the sidewalk, it'd be next to it, and it would be
Oh,
on its own
that's
hard
different.
surface. It's gonna need a heavy base
Yeah.
to support it.
Well, that-
It could
that would
be,
make more-
it could be marble, it could be a big chunk of marble there, or
Mhm.
granites,
Okay.
pavers, any number of things that you support the bench on, okay? Not, I'm sorry, that wasn't the implication it was on the sidewalk, it's like a bench adjacent to the sidewalk
Yes,
is
well,
what,
that's a better description.
yes. Members and business, next